started. I see we have a full house today. Did everybody come to wish me a happy 15th anniversary that I'm celebrating next week? We're going to get started with some general updates. You can change the slide, Stephanie. So an update for sales. So through the second quarter, we had 22 sales, which was 3 ahead of our budget, which is great news. And so far in quarter 3, between closings and deposits, we are at 10. Our budget is 13 by the end of September, and we're shooting for 15. So if we can hit our numbers, that will put us 5 ahead of budget for the year at the end of the third quarter, which is great news. Our projections would put us at 90% occupancy by the end of September, which is a nice little goal that we've been striving for several months. And then at the end of the year, if our estimates shake out to be correct, we will have gained 7 units of occupancy in the year 2023, which is all great movement in the right direction. Also, right now we are in the throes of preparing our 2024 operating and capital budgets. I know I've sent an invitation to your resident leaders to review the operating budget and any capital requests we have put together at that point. That will happen the first week in September. And then towards the end of the month, we'll be doing our final presentation for our regional team with LCS. So working on all that feverishly now, and hope to kind of be at a pretty solid place by the end of next week. Not that we can't make changes to it after that, but our goal is to have our first draft complete by September 1st. Also, I think I've mentioned in a previous meeting that we're going to be doing a renovation of the sales office this year. And so that's going to be starting here shortly. So we're going to relocate our wonderful sales team to an apartment on the 3rd floor temporarily while we complete that renovation. And I foresee that starting sometime, I don't know, Sibby, in the next month and a half. We'll probably get that started. The other thing I wanted to mention, my dinners and lunches with all of you have gone very well. I've enjoyed spending time with you, getting to know you better. And I'll be putting out dates for the 4th quarter here sometime in the next week or 2, so you can all sign up for those dates, but more to come on that shortly. And we're not going to spend a whole lot of time on dining today, but I do want to make a couple of comments in that we are continuing to work through the preferred dining program, and I know sometimes we communicate, we want to be very transparent and communicate about things almost to a fault. When we share what we know and we don't have answers to all the questions yet, I know it's frustrating, but we are starting to iron out some of those final details. And the meeting I keep referencing in the memo is going to be on September 21st. So it will be in tomorrow's memo, all the details, but on September 21st, we're going to have 2 separate meetings in the auditorium, 10 o'clock and 2 o'clock. You only have to attend one. It's going to be the same presentation at both meetings, but you will get all the details at that meeting. We're going to have lots of raffle prizes and things to talk about there. So looking forward to that. And then what we're going to do as a follow-up, because I think this is going to be a big change, right? So people are going to continue to have questions. So following that big kickoff meeting in September, we're going to go ahead and schedule that next round of floor meetings where your wing and floor meets with myself and some other department heads. We're going to do 2 meetings a week, and those meetings are all going to be myself, Teresa, and any members of her management team that she wants to include. So we'll really focus on the preferred dining program in those meetings, as well as any other topics you want to talk to me about, but I think that's going to be top of mind for most people at that time. And then if we're predicting a rollout for the preferred dining program, we're probably thinking January 1st. So we'll talk about it from now until then, so we get everybody's questions answered and get you comfortable with how it's going to work. So that will be coming up next month. The other thing that is actually not on this slide that I wanted to mention, because I've received some questions about it, we've talked throughout this year that we've had some issues with trees around the golf course, around the building that are dying. And you may have seen CNS removing trees this week. We're getting started with that. I talked to Sibby, and he can probably talk more about it when he comes up and does his presentation. But some of it, they've been struck by lightning. Some has to do with the roots, and I'll let Sibby talk about that, and also some beetles that create issues with trees, and then they jump from tree to tree that create the issues. We will be replanting, probably not as large of trees as what we're going to be removing, but that's starting this week. You can go to the next slide, Stephanie. So the big topic is transportation. And I know that a lot of you have been talking about it. I've talked to some groups of residents already. I've talked to the RAC president, ROC chairman, about some of the changes we're making in transportation. And the thing what we are going to do is by the end of this month, I will send you all a letter, a 60-day notice saying that we are no longer going to provide personal transportation through our transportation office. What does that mean? That means that we're not going to schedule transportation for hair appointments, for nail appointments, for personal shopping trips. We're still going to have our regularly scheduled shopping bus and all the stops that makes. But we're also going to provide you with information on how you can schedule personal transportation. So our first goal, and it's not going to be effective overnight, is that we're going to try to shift that service of personal transportation from our transportation office to Innovative Home Services. The problem being that we need a car for them. And we can't just go out and buy a car. It's going to be part of our capital request for 2024. So we're requesting several new vehicles for next year, but one of those being a car specifically for Innovative Home Services that will be able to provide those personal transportation requests. The other, we're going to offer you some other solutions, and I did get an email from Karina today about the specifics on the Samaritan Services in Sun City Center. It's called SCC Ride, and they do provide local transportation at no charge in Sun City Center. I know there are some parameters around the distance they will go. There is some out-of-town transportation services as well that you can schedule through them. So we'll send out more details on that. And we will provide, we are able to schedule Ubers and Lyft for you. And I know there are people that are hesitant to use those services because you're riding with somebody that you don't necessarily know. But we're just providing options. I use Uber and Lyft all the time. We're providing it as an option for you. You certainly don't have to use it if you're not comfortable with that. Also, we do have information on some other transportation services. So, just summary, my responsibility to you is to get you to your professional appointments through transportation, your doctors, your dentists, your lawyers, your financial advisors. That continues through our transportation office, and that is included in your contract, and you schedule that with Vanessa. The only thing we are modifying is the personal transportation component. And I will share with you, I was talking with several people, this is something, it's not something that we've done for the entire time Freedom Plaza has been in existence. We started offering that personal transportation since I've been here. I think one of my, I hate to throw somebody under the bus that's not here to defend themselves, but one of my predecessors added that personal transportation component, as well as some other transportation services that didn't exist at Freedom Plaza. And then people get used to having the option of those services. And now that we have more and more residents utilizing our transportation services, my priority is getting you to your doctor's appointments, your dental appointments, and any other professional appointments you have. So that's really the buzz about transportation. We're not trying to limit or change the services that are provided for you in your contract. We're just trying to rearrange who provides those services so we can uphold our contractual obligation to you, which is the transportation to your professional appointments. So what questions do you all have about transportation? Al, she's going to bring you a mic, or Cindy's going to bring you a microphone.
Will this limit the mileage that we go?
So there's no change to the mileage provided to you all, right? So everybody in this room maintains your 35-mile radius. We are going to change that radius for new residents coming in. And that's our job to track that.
Could you please let us know what led you to this decision?
What led us to this decision is the fact that we are telling people are coming to the transportation office to schedule transportation for a doctor's appointment, and we don't have any vehicles or drivers available because we have people that we are taking currently to hair appointments, to nail appointments, doing personal shopping trips, and that should not be taking precedent to getting people to their professional appointments. So we are going to expand the service, but it's going to be done through Innovative Home Services versus our transportation office. So whether we expand the service through transportation or through Innovative Home Services, it requires more vehicles, right? I can't get vehicles overnight. So we are going to continue to offer that service, but we can't until we get those vehicles in place. Rob.
Good question, Angie. Number one, what led to the decreased mileage for people coming in? Because my understanding is it does not cover the VA or some other medical facilities that doctors' locations that people use. Number two, is there any chance that if someone is over medical hobby shop next door, like we know the South Bay Hospital, that their spouse or whomever could get a ride over there?
I'll repeat it. So the question was, why are we changing the radius? It's not going to include certain destinations within that radius. And then also, will we provide transportation to South Bay Hospital if somebody has a spouse or another friend or loved one that is in the hospital? So I think I have a couple of responses. So the reason that the 35-mile radius was instituted initially when Freedom Plaza opened was because we wanted it to include the VA. And now the VA has satellite offices in Riverview that are closer and other services. And another thing that is playing into it, and we're experiencing more and more as folks move here from Sarasota, from some areas of Bradenton, maybe up to Wesley Chapel or other areas of Tampa, because of that radius that we offered, they're not changing their primary care physicians, and really the intent of the 35 miles initially was to get people to the VA hospital in Tampa. So there's other options for that now, and now that we have folks that, okay, well, I'm going to keep my doctor in Sarasota, we take them, and that takes a driver and a vehicle out of commission for about 4 hours to get them to their appointment and wait for them and then come home. And that's really not the intent of what that initial radius was supposed to be covering. So we didn't arbitrarily come up with a new radius. We talked to several other communities to find out what their radius is, what they're offering, and what our new radius is going forward is 20 miles, which is not a very small radius. And it's actually more than some communities offer, most communities offer. So it just was more reasonable to allow us to accommodate all the requests of the residents, quite honestly.
Right, does the transportation to professional appointments include doctor-prescribed physical therapy?
Yes. Oh, hospital visits. If you're going to South Bay, I would say yes. The tram can even take you to South Bay.
Angie, in the case of Moffett, isn't Moffett outside 20 miles?
Moffett is outside 20 miles, and there's a ton of what ifs, right? I think we're going to have to take situations as they come and decide, but I did specifically reach out about Moffett and to some other communities and say, do they make exceptions for Moffett? Do they make exceptions for this location? That's not a typical thing. I'm not saying no to that, but we've got to figure out how are we going to provide a solution to get people to Moffett.
Well, Angie, I can assure everyone that Tampa General now has an independent and very well, highly rated cancer center.
It's good.
That's an alternative.
Mm-hmm.
Where?
Where?
Tampa General. Tampa General.
Do we know where is the Tampa General Cancer Center?
It's on Davis Island.
Oh.
Okay, I had a question. You said that everybody in this room would be, of course, still under the 35-mile limit. We are going to be new residents, but we haven't moved in yet. Does that
Yes.
include us?
If you've already signed your contract,
Yes.
you're covered under the 35.
Thank you.
I have a question about going to Moffett. Now, I've been going for many years for follow-ups, and I have a 3 o'clock appointment. I was told that I have to be back here with the driver by 5. I can't guarantee how long the traffic conditions will be, or how bad, or how long the appointment will be.
That's fine. We want people, if they can, to schedule appointments in a way that get people back before 5, but being somebody who has had lots of doctor's appointments this year, I understand that that's not always a possibility. So if you get back a few minutes after 5 o'clock, that's fine.
So you'll not abandon me up there and the driver will
Correct.
come.
I promise we won't.
I think that, I've only been here a couple of months, but the driving thing, the 35 limit was a very important incentive that made a difference to me. In fact, before I came, they actually took me to a place and waited, and I understood that if it was more than 35 miles that I would pay, and that was fine. But I think you might be giving up an important competitive advantage, mainly because what it says about the place, that we care about your medical things, we're going to get you there, and I think it would be a mistake to take it back.
Okay, so this is what I will say. Every decision I make is not necessarily the best one, right? And we talk about new programs and things we want to change, and they're really all to be able to deliver the services to you all in the best way that we can. So if we find over the next few months that this change in radius is a real hindrance to get new folks to move in here, we'll revisit it, because you're absolutely right. We don't want it to prevent people from moving here.
But your image too, the fact that you have that, said we want to be more proactive.
Understood.
What did he say? Back here.
Okay. I don't think, although Tampa General is a wonderful hospital and has a great reputation, it is not the Moffett Cancer Center. Moffett Cancer Center is one of the 10 best cancer centers in the country. And I think for new members, they should be able to have transportation to and from Moffett. It's bad enough if you have cancer, you have to worry about not being able to get there.
Okay. We'll continue to have discussions. I'll tell you what my concern is. If we make an exception for one, we'll make an exception for Moffett, then somebody will want an exception for some other specialist or doctor that's outside our radius. It's not that I don't understand what you're saying, Idly, but we have to be careful.
Angie?
I've got a question. I have doctors in Carrollwood that in the past I got taken to. One is with Advent Health and one is with St. Luke's for eye treatment. But because the route they take now is safer than the original route, it's 2 miles more than 35 miles. And
Well, don't tell me that, Martha.
What? What? They won't take me to Carrollwood without charging me $4 a mile, any mile over 35 miles. It costs me $16 to go to a thing at Carrollwood because the safest way to go is the longer way, which is 37 miles. But
Well, I will talk to Jeff and Vanessa about that. So I'll get back with you because I think we can make something work there.
yeah, I know you will.
Real quick question. You used to have, I'm going back to your very beginning of, you're doing medical stuff, and I appreciate that, and I can honor that. And you were saying private appointments you're going to start charging for, but you're not going to do anymore. You want to send them over to Innovative Home Services. It used to be $5. I mean, I was charged $5 to go pick up something at one time. Is Innovative Services going to charge $5 or what?
I don't know what that amount is going to be yet. So it's probably going to be a flat fee as long as it's a local trip right here within Sun City Center.
Well, right now, they're for flat fees, they're $20 minimum.
Okay.
So to go get, if you were going to go get your nails done, you got to add $20 to get there, and then another $20 to get home.
Well, it's not going to be $20 each way, and I don't know that it's going to be $20. That's a conversation I have to have with Innovative Home Services.
Good luck.
I'm not, I should say that sarcastic.
Those that don't know, Moffitt is building
Can't hear.
For those that don't know, Moffitt is building a new branch about 3 miles from here on 674.
Okay, so I'll repeat that. Moffitt is building a satellite office here in Sun City, well, no, it's Sun City Center, about 3 miles from here.
I just want to say that in the past couple of years, I have used transportation for a couple of very dedicated appointments that I had to have, sometimes twice a week. One time it was every day for a while. And the drivers here were tremendous. And I really think that they did a fantastic job. But the problem is, I don't see them anymore. What happened to our good drivers?
So we don't have any good ones anymore?
I haven't seen them. There was 3 good drivers that I had, and they're not around anymore.
Well, I mean, I can tell you we have all of our driver positions are filled, and I know we still have some very long tenured drivers because I was at our years of service celebration last week, and there was a driver that celebrated 10 years. Bill was there. So we do still have a lot of long tenured drivers. We did have some turnover, as we have in every single department here. But all of our driver positions are currently filled. Are we good on transportation for now? What I will say is that we're going to continue to evolve, that I always make decisions in a way that I think I can best provide services to you, or the team can. There's no malintent behind any changes. We just want to be able to accommodate your needs. And as we go through these changes, if something doesn't work or it doesn't make sense, we're going to pivot and we're going to do it the way it does make sense. So, you know, nothing is ever etched in stone. And I think that's important to keep in mind as we go through these changes in transportation, as we approach changes in dining. We do them all for very good reasons, and some of those reasons may not seem very clear to you, but there really is a method to our madness most of the time. And we're also going to use judgment. You know, that's something I talk to the leadership team a lot about. So we have to put parameters in place, right? We have to have policies and rules to follow. And then it's up to the department heads to decide when does it make sense to bend those rules and bend those policies in different situations. And I always encourage them to come to me if they aren't sure. If you aren't sure, like, if in your head you're thinking we should probably go ahead and do this for this particular resident, then ask me, because it's more than likely going to be a yes. But we have to have these parameters in place so on a consistent basis we can fulfill your transportation requests. And that's really what is driving this. It's not to take away services. I can tell you a lot of these services that we're saying we're no longer going to provide were not in place 10 years ago. They were added over time, and we're to a point now that so many residents utilize our services that we can't do the ones that we are contractually obligated to provide to you. And that's not, I want to make sure you get to see your doctors and your dentist and your physical therapist and anything like that. To me, that is priority to hair and nails. And I'm not saying that to make a joke of it, because hair and nails are very important to me. But I've got to focus on what your medical needs are. All right, Stephanie, next slide. I want to just real briefly talk about the resident engagement survey. I know they went out last week. We're still encouraging lots of participation, and I'll just address some of the comments that I've heard. Somebody asked me, what is extraordinary impressions? And there's a whole section in the survey that talks about extraordinary impressions. And what that is a Life Care Services signature program that really focuses on hospitality. So within that section of the survey, and I read over it today, there's a lot of questions, and they really are representative of what the program calls our hospitality promises. So as you read down through those questions, think about the interactions that you have with the employees here, from the housekeepers to the maintenance technicians, to the servers, to myself, and think, is this how I'm treated here as a resident of Freedom Plaza? And that's how you really want to answer those questions, because there's a difference between hospitality and customer service. And we focus on hospitality, which is more about the entire experience than a very single transaction. So if you want more information on extraordinary impressions, there's a whole presentation that I have hard copies of down at Stephanie's desk that you're welcome to pick one up and take a look at. I wanted to talk a little bit about the company that actually tabulates the surveys. So a company called SendSite Surveys is the one who sent us the surveys. We deliver them to you, and when you mail them, they go back to SendSite Surveys. And they have a website that you can go to and check them out. A lot of different senior living companies use this particular company to administer their resident and employee surveys. So I don't know who filled out what survey or who made what comment, although I can guess on the comments a lot. I can usually guess on the comments, but we really do want your feedback. And the benchmark for Life Care Services, when they look at survey participation, they want at least 85% of the residents to participate in the surveys. And while I absolutely love positive feedback, I also want constructive feedback, because we can never make things better if you don't tell us what you don't like. So again, just encouraging you to participate in that survey. I also had a couple people talk to me about there's individuals named in the survey. That was the case also in the survey we did 2 years ago. We always name all the directors. And there was questions, well, why are some people named and other people aren't named? So the survey is the exact same survey for every community within our portfolio. So Freedom Village of Bradenton, Freedom Square, Lake Seminole Square, Regency Oaks, all of our sister communities in this area are participating in the same exact survey right now. And not every community has every position the same. So they take all the positions that are consistent across all the communities, and they are the folks that are named in the survey. And I will say, if you're not comfortable with a particular question, I looked and saw that on the very far side, there's an NA option that you can select. And I think that applies, some people say, well, I don't know Martha real well, so I don't want to score her. I mean, I'm just using that as an example. If there's something you don't feel you know enough about to answer the question, you can always select NA. But we do want you to participate. We appreciate it. And once we get the results back, we'll share the results, and we'll come up with an action plan to address our areas of opportunity. Lastly, I'll say we do still need volunteers. If anybody would like to assist residents in assisted living with completing their surveys, you can reach out to Kim Habercorn directly, and she can set you up with a time and some folks that you can assist. Her number was in the memo last week, and I'll put it in again tomorrow. And so I'm pinch hitting for Martha today. Unfortunately, Martha was rear-ended this morning. So she's a little sore, and she's got to deal with a car that's banged up. So I'm gonna pinch hit for her presentation today. And what I wanted her to cover, because this has come up in several floor meetings that we've done in the past, is what is included in my housekeeping services. So this first slide here is for the weekly service. So in general, we're going to do all the floors and carpet. We're going to take out your trash, and we're going to change the linens and towels. So if we provide you with towels and linens, we're going to launder them and put them back on the bed and bring you fresh towels. If you provide your own linens for the bed, we'll change them. We just don't launder them for you. We'll clean the bedrooms and the bathrooms. We're going to do the mirrors, the sinks, the vanities, the tub, and the shower. In the kitchen, we do the sink, the countertops, the stove, and wipe down the cabinets. And then in the other category, a lot of you have the mirrored closet doors. We will clean those. We'll also do the patio doors. And we do have a handout that has a little bit more detail on it. And that's down with the copies of the presentation at Stephanie's desk as well, if you would like a copy of that or this presentation. So next slide, Stephanie. So this is annual, and this is the annual service. You get an annual cleaning, and we don't typically reach out to you for the annual cleaning. If you're ready for your annual cleaning, you can call the housekeeping office and schedule that. So with that, we're going to move furniture out. And so when we say move furniture, we're talking like couches, tables, chairs. We'll pull that out from the wall. We'll vacuum under it. We'll wipe the baseboards down. We're going to clean the AC vents, do the blinds and the windowsills. We're going to do doors and frames. We will even flip your mattress for you. In the kitchen, we'll pull out the refrigerator. We're going to clean the floor underneath it. We're going to wipe down the back of the refrigerator. We're going to pull out the bottom drawer from the stove and clean that area. And then and these are also by appointment. Right now we are in the throes of window cleaning, as most of you know. That is annual. If you would like your furniture vacuumed, you can call and schedule that. And then also carpet cleaning. So all these things you can call the housekeeping office to schedule, and there will be a handout, and we'll also email all these handouts with the memo tomorrow. But if you do want a hard copy, they are down by Stephanie's desk. Yes, so that's all spelled out, as well as who you can call and contact information. They should do the ceiling fans. If that's not on there, it might be included on the more detailed handout though, but they should be on there. All right, so I've talked a lot today and happy to answer some residual questions, but first I'm going to call Civi up, and he is going to give a presentation on your refrigerator and freezer. So get ready for some excitement.
I think Angie had all the excitement, but this information is probably just a lot of good reminders for everybody. We talk about maintenance and repair overall across the campus. In your own apartment, there's appliances and fixtures that constantly need maintenance, but they also at times need replacement. To help with the replacement and help with the cost, there's things that you guys can also assist us with. When you think about your fridge, last month there were, I want to say we spent probably over $6,000 between fridge replacements and also parts, replacing parts. a lot of the replacements were contributed to fridges being overfilled, and the fridge itself could not properly work. It couldn't properly cool itself. So just as these key points that I would like you guys to take away from this, number one, and why I keep going so fast, essentially in your fridge, if you think about the AC in your apartment, your AC has a supply, that supplies the cold air. It also has a return, that sucks the air back into that AC unit. Your fridge works very much the same way. There's a compressor, and there's coils, and there's a fan. Well, it supplies cold air into your freezer if you look at the airflow, and that also goes into your refrigerator cabinet as well. And then it's also returned back, and it's a cycle that goes through. And that's how the items in your fridge and your freezer are kept cool. Well, if it's overfilled, you're going to block the vents. I mean, really, if you think about it, it's pretty simple. If you overfill that fridge and you block a vent, the air can't go out and the air can't come back in. And what's going to happen is the compressor is going to overload, and eventually the compressor is going to go out. These days, a typical fridge is anywhere from $1,200 to $1,500. A compressor can range from $500 to $700. At that point, when we're replacing a compressor, it's really not cost effective to do that. We were looking at fridge replacements, and that's a cost on us. But again, it's something that we can use your assistance on. So if you go to the next slide, when we talk about what's an overstuffed fridge look like. Go back to it real quick. If any of these look familiar to you, then we've got some work to do. I'm not saying these are pictures taken anywhere on campus, but I have seen some fridges that look very close to this. And if you saw the slide before, you saw the airflow. But in these pictures, you can't even see the back of the fridge. So clearly you're going to have issues with that appliance, with the components, the main components, the compressor, your coil, your fan. So the directive and the recommendation is to organize it in a way so that it's about 3/4 the way full. Put items in there to where you can actually see what's in the back of the fridge, your back item, and that way you know those items are being cooled. Now, it also works conversely if the fridge is not filled at all, because then your fridge is working so much just to keep that area cool. Because the items in your fridge will actually help keep the fridge compartment cool and keep the freezer cabinet cool. So it seems simple, which it is, but there's a lot of mechanics that kind of go along with it. This whole slide presentation, I'm not sure why it's playing like that, but it'll be printed out and you guys can keep it as well. And again, they're very simple reminders just to keep in mind when you look at your fridge. I'd say majority of everybody in here, they know how to keep their fridge organized and keep it stocked. And we don't have too many problems with that. But last month, it seemed like there was a number of issues with fridges, and the root cause went back to the fridge or the freezer just being overfilled. So just keep that in mind and either work with your own fridge and freezer and try to clean it out, or talk to your neighbors, maybe they need some help. And if you need some guidance on how you need to organize it, you know, what goes on the top, what goes in your crisper, you can reach out to myself or Lavinia, and we can give you a printout, and that can help you with that as well. And it goes a long way on our end. Of course, if something needs to get replaced, we will fix it, we will repair it. We're not going to blame you for it. We may give you some recommendations, and it'll be at that, and that's exactly what this was, just a recommendation. So that was a little lighthearted. It wasn't too in-depth, I don't think. But let's move on to some capital projects. I know many of you know, as Angie spoke about, the trees on campus. Removing those trees is also a little bit important right now because they are dead. We're in hurricane season. There's, I think, 3 or 4 tropical storms out there right now. So we want to make sure we get all that cleaned out and removed, especially the ones that are close to the building. And as Angie mentioned, we did have a individual came out last year to kind of assess those trees. Majority of them were root bound, which means when they were planted, those roots weren't actually spread out, and over the years, the roots themselves have actually choked out the tree. There are some that have beetles in them that have gone through, and those beetles will actually go from tree to tree. It seems like this is only happening on the golf course. All those oak trees were planted at the same time. There's also some trees that were hit by lightning at some point. So unfortunate, these are all full-grown, mature oak trees, but we will have to replace those trees. I mean, they are dead, so we typically, if it's a tree that's dead, we do not require, county doesn't require a permit, however, we do have to replace that tree. So that's what Chris is in the process of right now. When we started that back last year, there were close to 30, if not a few more than 30 trees that needed to be replaced. So he started into that last year. He's gotten back into it this year now as well. So, yes.
Will you replace them with live oaks or something else?
What we're looking at is a live oak. There are some laurel oaks, I believe, that he's looking at doing, and also fall cypress trees as well. But a lot of the trees, on the golf course, some of them were planted as more or less a barrier. So they either don't go into a building or go into the next green or the next hole next to it. So it depends on where they're going to be planted at. Yes, ma'am. They do. There's some, so the cypress we're planting along the ponds, like this little pond that's out front, we place some on there. So when we replace a tree, when we remove a tree, another new tree doesn't have to get placed in that exact spot. It just needs to get placed on campus. So if we can place it in that general vicinity, we will. Otherwise, we'll find another location on campus to plant that tree. So we wouldn't have a fall cypress, let's say, right off the edge of the green or off the edge of the fairways. You are right, correct. Couple other, was there another comment over here? No. What's that? Oh, repeat the question. So she was mentioning about ball cypress trees and the knees that come up on the bottom of those trees. We won't be planting those on the edge of the fairways or the greens, but we more or less on the outer banks or the ponds on the edges of the pond. So it's not in the way of mowers or keeping the area clean. One of the main projects we got going on right now is the AL and memory care renovation. That project is underway. We've had a few hiccups. One of the big items that we're doing an addition at the memory care and also enclosing 2 area AL dining room. So that had to go to the county. Well, the county's had the prints and they've gone back and forth with the contractor and the engineers now. It's probably been 3 months, 4 months. We still have not received a permit to move forward with that part of that phase of the work. However, even without that, we've encountered some issues with the flooring in the common areas over there, which as a result, we've had to actually rip up the flooring down to the plywood. It was pretty extensive. As far as the change order goes cost-wise, I want to say it was around $170,000 worth of extra work, but it was needed. It's something that's going to last us another 20, hopefully 30 years down the road. If we were to put the flooring down on top of the substrate that's there now, it may be 6 months or another year, we'd have some more issues with that floor. So in a way, this is the best time to do that work. It's unfortunate, but with remodels and renovations and demo, this is the only time you're really going to find that something like that needs to happen. Yes, Pete in the back. So Pete brought up the hole downstairs in the indoor swimming pool in the ceiling. So that was a roof leak above there. When we started the work on that pool, we knew there was an issue there. We didn't really know where it was at. Well, the roof leak finally showed itself. We repaired the roof leak. Now we're just waiting for a real good rainstorm to come in and make sure that's been sealed up before we close that ceiling up. I think we had some rain last week, but it really wasn't enough to tell. But once that's done, then we will close the ceiling. Yes. Yes, so her question was behind GBT Building 10, there's a lot of tree branches that are coming close to the building up high. Chris we've got one large lift on campus, that's for something else, but Chris has a smaller lift. Once he finishes some of these trees, he will be doing some of the smaller tree trimming. We won't be removing trees, but just trimming some trees up over there. So going back to the AL Reno, essentially that's where that project's at. We're trying to get to a point we can we'd like to complete the entire project by the end of this year. That's very hopeful. Furniture is coming in within the next month. We'll be storing that on site and then spreading that out, all the new furniture, the new fixtures, decorations, everything, and we'll start spreading that out as the floors get completed. Talking about GBT, the Wi-Fi project there is underway. We're probably about 85% on that project. I believe they're coming back Monday to install some more hardware in the communication rooms. So what that's going to do is give you Wi-Fi within the common areas just outside the front door, you'll have some Wi-Fi. You may be able to tap into it in your apartment, but it's not meant or designed for the resident usage in the apartment. It's mainly meant for the touchdown system that's there. We'll have a hardwired system for all the touchdown TVs at the entry. Also all the security cameras. Right now the security cameras are linked to this building via line of sight, I guess, if you will. It's not a hard connection. So unfortunately the cameras can go in and out. But once this is completed, at the front desk they'll have a hard line view of the front doors, outside the entryways, and around that campus over there as well. Also at GDT, starting tomorrow, AES, the fire alarm contractor, is coming back to buildings 5, 6, and 8 and installing the carbon monoxide detectors. 7, 9, and 10 were already completed. That was part of a fire alarm upgrade. So now 5, 6, and 8 will get the carbon monoxide detectors installed. Then all buildings will be fully tested. Once that's done, we'll do a training down there, either at each building or at the community center, on what you're supposed to do in the case of the carbon monoxide alarm going off or the fire alarm going off. Because as many of you know, when the fire alarm goes off, you stay sheltered in place. Because your apartment's sprinkled, that's the safest place to be. If the carbon monoxide detector, if that goes off, you need to exit the building, exit your apartment. So the audible sound is different. There's a visible strobe light that is different than what you see with the fire alarm. And also the tone. That tone, the audible, the visual, is all going to be completely different. And also the device itself is different. So I've got a sample board that the contractor created. You'll be able to see it, touch it, feel it, hear it, everything you want, and ask all the questions that you want to know. We'll also have an addendum in our emergency manual as well, explaining what needs to happen. And a couple of our residents actually helped put that together. Angie mentioned our sales renovation. We'll be kicking that off hopefully in the next month, I'd say, month and a half. So that project's going to be pretty involved. We do have a renovation in the pub. It's a light renovation, not a major one. It's kind of underway. There's a lot of stuff happening behind the scenes, but we'll start to see some work in the actual space here shortly. We do have a few other projects on campus. Plaza West is getting some new elevators, much like we did here. They're getting an elevator mod that's happening over there. All the electrical work has been completed. Now we're waiting on Thyssen for all the equipment. That's looking like probably October, November by the time that equipment arrives. So we've got quite a bit underway this year. And then of course next year, as Angie mentioned, we've got a pretty big capital list that's getting put together to start next year as well. Any questions, comments? Yes.
Oh. And so, well, I did not have a special service for the computer. When I got new one, I'll do that. Now, I'm also wondering about the pretty expensive TV sets. Should we have surge protectors on our special equipment?
So her comment was a few weeks ago we had a pretty bad lightning storm, thunderstorm. She had a computer, her apartment, I guess we had the power outage here in the campus. Her computer actually took a hit, and I believe the computer went down, you said? Yeah. It did, because, okay.
It was seeming like bleed, but it was like back on.
So when the power in the building came back on, your ceiling light came back on. However, yes, it is recommended to get a power surge for your computer, and it would be even better to get it for any electronic in your apartment. The building itself, we do not have a power surge safety device for the whole building, for all the apartments per se. So just like when you had your residential home, you had your computer plugged to a battery backup power surge, I would get one and recommend to do that for your apartment as well, for your electronics. And it would just help in an instance like that. So she was asking, does a charger, a phone charger or anything like that require battery backup? Typically those, I mean it's 120 volt, but typically those don't require one. If we get a power surge that's going to knock everything out like that, it may even take a battery backup unit, power surge unit out too. But I would say your TVs, main computers, big electronics. Yes.
Cindy, I love what you've done at the end of the parking lots where it was ugly, dirty dirt, and now you have this beautiful red rock at the end, or river rock. But it's just on one side and the other. Are you going to do all the others and make them look equally nice?
Yes, they will all get done.
How soon?
Well, I think it took, what, a year and a half to get those two, so at that record. No, the contractor's actually working on us getting the rest of those hopefully by the end. I would say by mid-September, end of September is what we're working at. Those were the two first and the two easiest ones we could do. It was kind of like a trial, a little bit to see what it was going to take to do that. So yes, we will do the other ones as well. Very good. Thank you.
You mentioned replacements, but you didn't mention the stoves and ovens. There is one in 610. She cannot cook on it, hasn't been able to cook on it for months. Can something please be done to help her?
Yes, it can. I will look into that and see what the issue is.
Okay, thank you.
Going back to appliances, replacements, repairs, that goes for everything. Microwave, stoves, fridge. Yes, Ms. Miller?
Yes, I'm Kathy Miller in 217. I'd just like to know if you have an update on what the horrible grinding noise is in the elevator. It's I don't know if anybody else finds it annoying, but it's extremely annoying for us in 217. And it's just, I don't know if it's just on the C wing or it's D, but C wing definitely has it.
That's elevator number. And yes, there are multiple residents that have let me know about that as well. Working with Thyssen, Thyssen's our contractor that works with that. So the elevator has a large jack, if you will, which is maybe about the size of this post right here, that actually runs the center of the elevator all the way up to 7th floor. Down at the bottom, there's seals. To be real basic about it, there's seals that hold the hydraulic fluid back. Well, those seals have cracks in it, so there is a leak with that hydraulic fluid. Once it gets low, what you're hearing is the groaning of that jack essentially going up and down. So Thyssen's working on a repair for that. When we do that, it will be for possibly 2 to 3 days, maybe a week at a time, but it is something that we are working on. No, so that was not replaced when we did the elevator line. Yes, one comment here.
I have it too. I have it on 617. You were in my apartment before, and there's groaning all the time. I can hear it because I'm right across from the elevator.
Yes.
And it's groaning.
And that's, so that's the BC side elevator number 1, which is the first one on that door 5 side over there. Yes.
Is there an update on the bats? I've been watching them coming in the morning.
Oh, the cat produced. We have eliminated all the bats, and I hopefully at no point did I ever say completely remove them. They will still come and go. There are areas in the lanais that we worked on closing and sealing those up. If you're getting them in your lanai, let us know. We area up, and they will not come back in there.
One of the peaks in the front of the building on the B side. You can see them coming.
So I know
in the morning.
I know on the B side towards the back there was a couple areas that I just recently closed up. I know back on this end there was 2 areas that I closed up. And again, these areas, when I say I closed them up, if you look at your microphone, it's about the size of the bottom of that microphone. Right. So there's a lot of areas at that diameter throughout this whole building that we'll just have to continually monitor and keep closed as we can.
It's too bad they don't like the bat houses.
Maybe
maybe we should paint them.
Or put some lights on them and food, correct. Any other questions or comments? Yes? So she mentioned she hears a buzzing sound coming from a bathroom vent. We'll have to just come and look if it's in your apartment. It could be the exhaust fan going bad. But we'll get recorder and come and take a look. Okay? So hurricane prep around the campus, yes. Cleaning gutters. Chris has worked on some trees, trimming the trees. We've topped off all our generators. We actually just had all our generators PM, so they came through and checked everything. A couple batteries changed. I know a couple boards were changed. We do have our food, water supply in place. All of our contracts are in place. Generator how do I want to say this, but additional generators. We have a contract with Sunbelt and also Blue Team as well. In case we run into an issue where we're in a storm, our generator goes down, either one of those companies can come on site, set up a portable generator and plug into our system. So we've got our own generators for backup, and then we have redundant backup with those generators as well. And hopefully we don't run into anything like we did last year, but if we do, we will get through that. Of course, last year we fared pretty well, I'd say, with you. Yeah, I won't talk about it. If there are no other comments, Angie, bring it up. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Sibby. That's all we have on our agenda today. Is there any questions? All this, we covered a lot today. So everything we covered, there will be hard copies at Stephanie's desk, and we will also email it out with tomorrow's memo. Have a great rest of the day.